Okay, so I have a linear function here. I have a square root function here. I'll start by doing a sketch of these two. So x plus 2 is just the slope of positive 1, and the y-intercept is 2. And root x minus 2 is a square root graph that's been shifted to the right by 2 units. So here's the starting point at 2, and then goes this way, and then it gets flat. So let's compare. I'm going to extend that a bit. So let's do the domain of these two functions. So for f of x, my domain is just all real numbers. That's my domain for pretty much any linear function. For g of x, although I have a domain, my domain for g of x is x is an element of all real numbers such that x is greater than or equal to 2. So now if I want to sketch the quotient of these two functions, it's just f of x equals to x plus 2 divided by root of x minus 2. So let's do a little bit of a sketch for this one. Let's refer to the original. So if I take a look at the original here, I know that my domain starts at 2, so I don't look at any of this at all because none of that is bothered. So let's take a look over here. I'm doing f of x divided by g of x. So f of x is like 4, approximately 4, doesn't really matter. But g of x is basically 0, which means 4 divided by 0 is infinity. So at x equals to 2, this graph is all the way up at infinity. And then as this value gets slightly higher, I'm dividing by slightly larger numbers. So this value is going to come down to some minimum point. Not possible to predict this minimum point without calculus, so we don't need to worry about that. Now, as I keep going higher and higher and higher, this graph increases at the same rate. The rate of this one gets much lower. So what's going to happen is this is going to turn around here. There's going to be a minimum at some point. It's going to turn around and then it's going to start going up again. And that's how you would sketch the quotient of this function right here, of these two functions right here. My domain of this quotient is just dependent on these two. It's going to be the same as any restrictions. So my domain for this one is the exact same as g of x, which is just greater than or equal to 2.